Hey guys, Basement Horrors, and today I'm going to be having a collaboration with the new horror nerd. Now we're going to be telling you 3 stories on my channel, and then another few on his channel. So after this video is done, make sure you jump over to his channel. I'll see you guys at the end of the video. Number 1. Longtime Lurker. Here's my attempt at a contribution from an experience I had when I was 12 or so. Take it or leave it. One time when I was a kid, my parents were getting ready to go on a trip for the weekend and leave me at home alone. I was a good kid, and we live in a relatively safe community. I got a phone call on our home phone. These were before the days of caller ID, and someone asked if my mom was there, asking for her by her name. Well, my name sounds very similar to my mom's, so I thought that they were asking for me.
This is she,
I answered. Well, we didn't get very far into the conversation before I realized my mistake. I thought he thought, he was speaking to my mom. I should have just corrected him, but I was a bit socially awkward and just figured I'd end the call and never bring it up again. He then asked me if my husband, my dad, was home. I told him no and that he'll be away for the weekend. He then lowered his voice and told me,
"Well, I already knew your mom wouldn't be home. Now I know your dad won't be either. You really shouldn't tell strangers things like this."
Then he hung up. I was petrified. But I was too scared to tell my parents because I didn't want to get in trouble for accidentally pretending to be my mom. So they left on their trip, and I spent the entire weekend on edge, constantly making sure that my windows and doors were locked, and keeping my dogs by my side every second. Until I heard a crash in the basement. Unmistakable. There's a gate, so I know the dogs couldn't have been down there. I immediately called the police, as my parents told me to do if I ever heard noises in the house. I waited for them to show up, hiding in my closet ready to wet myself from fear. The police eventually showed, after about 10 minutes, and they investigated the basement and found no sign of anything awry. To this day, I have no idea what happened that weekend. Whether the crash was a coincidence and the man was just a family friend trying to teach me a lesson about pretending to be my mom, or whether someone found their way into my house, but was scared off when they heard me call the police. Nothing ever came of it, but I still shudder to think what could have happened to me that weekend. And I still don't like to be alone in the house. Over 10 years later. Strange man on the phone? Let's never meet.
This happened when I was 13 years old, back in 2006. I was walking home from school. I only lived a 10-minute walk away. The area was always busy, as there were 3 schools within 4 streets of each other. There's a huge busy alleyway in front of my school, which I always cut through, because it was just easier than walking around it. I've never had a problem before or after this day. I'm a very paranoid person, and I get nervous about things going on around me in the outside world, so I noticed this man straight away. I'll never forget him. He was much taller than I am. At the time I was barely scraping 5 feet tall, wearing a beige and blue plaid shirt and dark blue jeans. He had light brown hair, medium length, ringlets. He was white. He just stuck out for whatever reason. He wasn't much more than 5 or 6 steps behind me at any given time, so I was on edge right away. Once I got out of the alleyway, I turned onto the next street. 2 or 3 seconds, he came around the corner too. He was so close I could hear him breathing. I was trying to rationalize it in my head. He's just going the same way. Why would he follow you? He's not too close. That's all in your mind, etc. I decided to cross the road and just get out of his way. He crossed too. So I crossed back. So did he. And I crossed one more time to get back onto the side of the road that I needed to be on anyway. He crossed as well. At this point, I thought he was probably following me. The house I lived in at the time had a small alleyway behind it, and our garden gate was down there. It was a massive gate, easily over 8 feet, set into a 9-foot solid brick wall. Our garden gate was usually locked and bolted because we live on a high street, and drunk and shady people had made unwelcome appearances in our garden fairly often. I made the extremely stupid decision of bolting down this alleyway and running through the back gate. I had no idea if it was unlocked, and even if it was, I had no idea if the back door was unlocked. My mother could have been out getting my siblings if my stepfather was away. I had no clue. What a moron. The second I started running, he did too. Bolted down this alleyway. He's catching up to me. He's much bigger than I am, much longer legs. I got to the gate. Thank God it was unlocked. Threw it open, bolted it. Just as I bolted it, he slammed against it from the other side. He was kicking and punching the gate, screaming, and then I could hear him trying to climb up the side of the wall. Thankfully, my mother was in. The back door was unlocked. I ran inside and told her what happened. She opens the back door and screamed at him to clear off. She's phoning the police, etc. His hands disappeared from the top of the wall pretty fast and we heard him running away. We did phone the police. I gave them a description, never heard anything back. I never saw him again, not even around town. But I suppose in this amount of time he could have changed his appearance. I was just lucky that all the gates were unlocked that day. Honestly, the creepiest thing that's happened to me. Not the scariest by far, but definitely the creepiest. So weird, pedophile, crazy dude. Let's not meet.
Number 3. Longtime lurker, first post, yada yada yada. Alright, so a little bit of background on me before I start this story. I struggled all my life with severe anxiety. I used to have crazy blackout panic attacks when I was little, which as I got older, manifested into depression and insomnia. I often overthink things as I try to sleep, so I have a hard time sleeping. When I do get decent sleep, I often experience sleep paralysis, which has made me terrified to sleep for normal amounts of time. This all plays into the story, as I often get up to walk around and think and calm myself down if I'm having an anxiety attack. So, about a month ago, it was 2 a.m., and I couldn't get to sleep. I was having trouble with my ex and couldn't stop overthinking everything. As per usual, I got up and wandered. I walked up to a park a few miles away from my house. It's usually empty at that time of night, and I'd often go to the middle of this foresty area just to kind of sit and calm down. Being surrounded by nature often helps me calm down. I was sitting on a log and listening to some sad music, trying to avoid my thoughts. Just my usual ritual, I guess you could say. All of a sudden, I heard leaves rustle about 10 to 20 yards away from me. I looked and saw nothing, so I figured it was a small animal and I continued doing my thing. A few minutes later, I heard rustling and heavy breathing. I have a friend who suffers from the same things that I do, and sometimes we meet up at the park and talk about stuff. I texted him saying he should meet up with me there, but he didn't respond. I thought maybe it was him climbing up the hill where I sat, so I loudly whispered his name. No answer. The breathing got closer and heavier, and I didn't want to deal with whatever it was. I've read stuff on here long enough to know better. I got up and briskly walked to the other side of the park. Probably a 20-minute walk. It's a big park. I sat down on a bench and took out my earbuds so I could hear what was going on around me. I then heard something that made the hair stand up on the back of my neck, and my heart dropped. I heard the creepiest, sadistic-sounding laughing/wheezing from what sounded like 100 to 150 feet away. I was in a pretty open area though, and I couldn't see anyone. I was scanning the tree line when I saw him. This creepy, wire-old man with a cane coming out of the brush, staring straight at me. He started hustling, moving much quicker than I would think someone as old as he looked, 70s maybe, could possibly move. I got up and started walking, hoping he didn't actually see me, as he started cackling loudly and yelling, "Get back here, kid!" I'm a rather big 17-year-old guy who's wearing a black hoodie, covering most of my face. I'm often mistaken as much older than my actual age, and with the hood up in the dark, he would have no idea that I'm a kid unless he'd been close enough to see me clearly. From a distance, I look like a grown man. I started to run, and as I got to the nearest exit, I turned, and he was somehow only a little bit behind me, just over an arm's length. I don't know how he caught up to me. I'm not the fastest runner, but I know I'm faster than some old dude with a cane. When I looked back, he grinned this huge, toothless smile and said, "Why are you running? I just want to be friends." I sprinted home, zigzagging through different blocks, so I knew that I'd lose him. I locked all my doors and windows and went to bed. It was a weird encounter, but I've had weirder before at that park. The thing that makes this weird is that my manager at work told me that some old guy came in last week saying, "Is my name here today? I want to talk to him. I really want to be his friend, but he doesn't seem to want to be mine." I don't know how he figured out my name, let alone where I work, but I'm scared of what else this dude knows. I'm in a band, and we were in a local newspaper a while ago, so that could be how he got my name, but who knows. My manager told me that she'll call the police if he comes back. So, creepy old dude in the park who followed me around at 2 a.m., then came to my work asking for me a month and a half later, so I'm really freaking out. I'll update if anything else happens with this. But until then, creepy old dude from the park, let's not ever meet again. Hey guys, I hope you liked the video. I know I enjoyed working with the new horror nerd. And remember, as I said at the beginning of the video, make sure you check him out. You can click the bottom screen, the bottom thing on the screen that shows his name. That'll take you right to his channel. Make sure you subscribe, and make sure you watch his side of the collaboration. Thanks, guys, and until Friday, have a horrific day.